How did it become a culture that black people die for their blocks? The buildings in the blocks are owned by the Jews, the restaurants are owned by the Chinese, and the gas stations are owned by the Indians. Why is the cemetery owned by the blacks? I mean, not the business of the cemetery, but the usage of the cemetery. Now, I have a very controversial thought, and I'm going to tell you what I think about this. But let me tell you a little bit of a story. When I was in school, I got a call from my mom. I had an adopted brother who was in jail at the time. My mom said he's been stubborn and he's been doing a lot of things that are street and gang related. And because of that, the police took him. And I convinced my mom to, bail him out. I even offered to send money, which my mom wouldn't take the money at the time because I was too young to give money to my mom. At least that was the thought she had. So she wouldn't take my money. But after several calls, I convinced her to go take him out of jail. And he was released eventually because my mom was able to bail him out. Now, he didn't stop doing everything he was doing in the street. He continued. And a few months later, the next call I got from my mom was her crying, saying, he's gone. And the worst part of it was he was butchered, and he was found days after he was butchered, which means he had no funeral. He had no remains to be buried, basically just parts of his body. And some of the parts were taken by the people who killed him just to count the score to show that this is a part of the body they took from him. Moral of the story is, these things you're fighting for, there's only one path, or it could be two, depending on where you're from. The first path, I believe, in America would be jail, but the other path where it leads to is your grave. And I'm speaking about this from experience. So when you claim a block that you don't really own and you're willing to die for it, is that loyalty? I love the street beef I hear about where people are like, oh, we don't mess with that block, we don't mess with that block. That doesn't make any sense. If you notice, one of the major problems with the Black American community is division. They don't cooperate to build together. People speak about the Jews, some in negative ways, some in positive ways. But in this particular context, I want to speak about the Jews in positive ways, and that is cooperation. They come together, they build together, and they transfer this wealth to the generation. How many black people do you know doing this? I mean, some black people at this point are beginning to realize this, but not very often. My point of making this video is, instead of beefing and constantly fighting yourselves or claiming a block that you don't really own, how about you come together and actually buy the block and own it and transfer it to your generation? How about you come together, own the restaurants in the block? How about you come together, the gas stations, own it, build together, think together, lead in these states, these cities, be the leadership, influence things in a positive manner and stop trying to fight each other. Every now and then I see videos pop up on my TV where they are like, I visited the toughest streets in America, and all I see is people who look like me. I'm like, what is being tough? Tough is mental. If I have to carry a gun, I'm not tough because I'm weak, that's why I need a gun. Tough is all mental. Yeah, that's how you should see it. If you give a baby a gun and stand in front of is it a nozzle? That's what it's called. If you stand in front of it and the baby pulls the trigger, you're gonna die. Does that make the baby tough? No. The baby has a tool. So if you want to be tough, learn new things, learn how to cooperate with people, learn how to build together. This is where I find Africans separating themselves from African Americans. If you notice, when Africans move to America, the people who were born in like Nigeria or Ghana, when they move to America, they tend to do a lot better. Why is that? Because these people come from nations where they don't have the opportunities. So when they see the opportunities, they gravitate towards it. But in context to, or in relation to the African Americans, there's a certain kind of mindset of entitlement where you believe that America should give you everything, and then you don't hustle, and then you don't cooperate to get these things for yourself. It's not a good mindset to have. It's a victim's mindset. You should see the government. I know people like to think about, oh, I need welfare. The government isn't doing this for me. The government is not supposed to do anything for you. In fact, think of the government in a way of utilitarianism. The government's responsibility is always the greater good, the lesser evil. The government is not supposed to feed you. It's supposed to create avenues where you can get food for yourself. That's what the government is supposed to do. Build the infrastructure, keep the setting, reduce the taxes, manage things in a way that if you go out there, you see the opportunities. If you want to go from one place to another, you have the roads to use. That's majorly what the government is meant to do. when the government starts getting involved with your day-to-day activity and feeding, even though it might seem like it's welfare or good for you, but that gives them more control over your personal life. If I'm the one feeding you and I stop feeding you, are you gonna die? You see, those questions, that's not the government's responsibility. So you should withdraw from that and learn new skills so you can grow. I just made this video so I can speak to, my people, the people who look like me, because if you're from another race, I don't want you to watch this video. You shouldn't be watching it because the thumbnail should already say that it's not for you. But this video is for the people who look like me, for the children, for the kids who are in the streets and still thinking they have to beef each other. No, you don't have to. I came to Canada and I noticed something amongst the black communities. It's like there's a struggle to show that I'm a better black person than you. And I see that in the context in American music industry, most especially, where the rappers are always trying to compare themselves. Like, I'm a better rapper than you. I'm a better. It doesn't have to be, I'm a better this than you. I'm a better that than you. There's no need for the comparison. Jay-Z is good. As Nas is very good. Young Boy, NBA Young Boy is very good. Reese Youngin is very good. Everybody's very good. There's no comparison. Young Thug is good, Gunna is good, Lil Baby is good. Well, oh, good. Let's rap. Come together, build a culture together. There's no need for comparison. So this is just a video to. It's not a video to demean. It's a video to build up. A video to give you courage and confidence to think a different way. Think a different way. I didn't have to script this video. I didn't make any kind of points to outline. If you notice, I've just been talking. It's just a freestyle because it's just what I've been thinking about. It's just from my experience, from what I've been learning, And one thing I noticed about the black community is you're quick to, when someone gets to the top, you're quick to try to bring them down. Why is it so? Why does that happen? I don't want to name names right now, but from what I see, it's like someone gets to the top and they're just too far up that nobody catches up, and then they try to pull them down. In fact, I'm going to name names. It's like what I'm noticing with Drake these days. People have spoken about his character and, a lot of things about his character, but how come that is just being noticed now? Why didn't that happen when he was starting? Is it that the character got exaggerated because he's at the top now and now you hate him, so you want to bring him down? He's not a good person to be at the top or not a good representation? Like, what is the trouble right now? You see, things like that, people making comparisons between Drake and Kendrick. Drake is good. Kendrick is also very good. Why can't they just be both good at the top? J. Cole is up there. They should be good at the top. I even put Fabulous on the top as well. Wale is on the top for me. So why can't everybody just be at the top? McNeil is also at the top there. Rate your people. Do not be quick to speak negative about your people. You see, it's a representation. If I speak negative about a black person, it's reflective of me, whether you like it or not. If I speak negative about a Nigerian, it's reflective of me. A lot of times, what the government and the leadership does, I don't appreciate it. But if you speak negative about the leadership in a certain way, it's reflective of you. Because theoretically, you should be the one picking your leadership. So you should be careful to speak. Or be careful when you speak about the people who are at the top. Be very careful. That's just my advice for those who care to watch this video to the end. I appreciate you. And thank you. If you have any thoughts, share it in the comment section. I have a couple of videos where I speak about some other situations. Click here to watch the one for South Sudan. And